Good Monday, Cup of Sales Joe. With Halloween just passing, there were plenty of people running around looking like and acting like something they're not really. Have you ever heard of Imposter Syndrome? Even if you haven't, it's not a stretch to know what this is. It's fundamentally where we think we don't deserve whatever success or rewards we may get, that somehow we are not at all what people think we are. It's where we feel like we don't belong. It's a voice that tells us we're not measuring up. One of the key questions that I've heard about, which reveals how much of an imposter syndrome we may have, is asking, do you feel like you belong with the people you're surrounded with? Do you feel you truly belong? There may be various reasons why you feel like you don't belong with the people you're surrounded with, but certainly one of those is whether we feel like we're as talented or skilled as the people around us. The beauty of our work is that we are part of teams that are diverse and experience expertise and ways of doing things, and that's a good thing. Which means your unique contribution and your unique way of doing things is what makes you valuable. Because in the immortal words of one of my first sales managers, if each of us thought exactly the same way or the same things, then most of us don't need to be around. This can become something that, as you can imagine, left unaddressed, is a real worry, a real concern, that somehow you will be found out to be incapable or undeserving, or that you're just faking it. But I want to talk about how this, similar to a previous message about being a perfect loser, is actually a good thing. So, if you have ever felt like this, an imposter, take heart, because not only is it perfectly human and normal, but it can actually be a good thing. Imposter syndrome, much like we want to be a perfect loser by learning from a loss, is useful. If you think about it, a street sweeper doesn't feel imposter syndrome because he swept the same street yesterday. When you're trying to go beyond where you've gone before, imposter syndrome is inevitable and is proof that you are an emotionally intelligent, healthy achiever looking to go beyond where you've gone before, and that's a very good thing. In fact, attempting to visualize the future, as I've already talked about, is a valuable skill, but one which carries with it a challenge. That you can do a first creation in your mind of where you want to be, which leads to the second creation of it in the real world. And in doing so, we must also eliminate some of the self-doubt that comes with this. If you want to know more about how to live without doubt, please listen to my previous message, How to Operate with No Doubt.
He just carries on floating past Calvary Hill in an almighty hurry. Aye, but you might catch him still.
So the truth is that the road toward your goals will not always be straightforward or without challenge or even be logical, because our emotions play a key role in our behavior. That's why the same thinking that made you set your alarm for the morning at 5 a.m. is different from the mind that wakes up to that alarm. It's because we don't consider emotion in our planning, do we? When we plan and strategize, we are operating many times under the impression that all will go according to plan. And how many times does that happen for you? So rather than complain that reality doesn't meet our expectations, maybe we can adjust our planning to account for this. I'll be doing an upcoming message about the way to do this, but for now, I believe what we are actually caught in is a little case of imposter syndrome. We are trying to be something we aren't truly sure we can be.
When you're alone and you're cold inside, you're abandoning my fame. I'm getting up the brain. KGB was gone.
So, I want to connect imposter syndrome or an imposter mindset with something we are all familiar with, a growth and learning mindset, as well as the curve to mastery, to in essence reverse engineer it. Imposter syndrome is actually a good thing. But as we talked in the previous message about doubt, it's natural, but we can very easily get into a situation where it takes over. And rather than being a natural part of the learning curve, we let it become a dominant force in our mind. Much like money, imposter syndrome and doubt can be wonderful servants, but terrible masters. And maybe that's the subtlety of a growth versus a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset believes in extremes. I'm successful or I'm not. While the growth mindset understands degrees and subtle variations in colors. We are all complex beings, and trying to sum our entire mindset up in a sentence would be futile. Even to say that there's one key to success, we all know better than that. But we seek ease and simplicity. Our minds become easily overwhelmed when it comes to all the pieces of how our minds work. The truth is, if you really got deep into it, understanding our minds as the complex machines that they are should actually give us some comfort. We should feel really good that our minds are capable of so much and that, in actuality, most of us are just scraping the surface of the potential of our minds. That's really good news. But the fact that it is endlessly complex and immensely powerful, well, that can also be a little intimidating, can't it? Like herding cats.
It's getting hard to be someone, but it all works out. It doesn't matter much to me.
But there are principles and rules that apply when it comes to the success or a growth mindset. For example, if I held myself up to the standard of always having a growth mindset, then I might fall short and feel like a failure. When the truth is that any incremental increase of time that you spend in a growth mindset, well, that's a success. Simply the awareness and knowledge that we reside in a fixed mindset most of the time is enough to kick us into a growth mindset naturally, as it is with imposter syndrome. As I've said many times, the first step towards improvement is usually awareness of the current state and simply the desire to be in a different state.
Slowly I awake, slowly I rise. The walls I built are crumbling, the water is moving.
But then, that different state, that desired state that we wish to be in, has to be of our own design, lest we allow the world to tell us what state we should be in. Now, if what others want for us, we also want for ourselves, well, then that's actually a really great situation to find ourselves in. But if we don't buy into their vision, that's when we can feel the need to be something other than ourselves, to fit someone else's plan to be something else, or in other words, be an imposter. Don't get me wrong, helping others is a great thing. It's the hallmark of a generous and caring soul. But if we are doing it purely without real motive ourselves, that's when we can feel this dissonance between what we have to do and what we want to do. And that's when we may feel like an imposter. So one key to this is to inspect whether we are, and to what degree, working for our own good instead of simply working for others only. When we can get others to buy into our vision, or we find others with similar vision and goals, then we can truly talk about having a team. That doesn't mean it has to officially be a team. It can simply be others of a like mindset or with similar paths and goals to you. Your circle of influence may contain key players on your road to success, and you may be a key player for someone else's road. So, who in your circle can you spend a little bit of time communicating your goals and your path and maybe hearing about theirs? How can you, as Seth Godin puts it, find your tribe? Because we feel like less of an imposter when we are with the proper tribe. So we've gone through 2 out of 3 parts of imposter syndrome. First, what it is. Secondly, why it's a good thing and some of the bad aspects. And now, how to use it to your advantage. This part relates to having enough of a growth mindset that we actually want to put ourselves in positions to be an imposter. Those growth opportunities that stretch us and force us to be uncomfortable. As we always talk about, growth and learning happens when you're not in your comfort zone, where you may feel like an imposter sometimes. So, how can you frame times when you feel like an imposter and see it as a good thing? I actually believe that when you feel this way, it's a sign of great things to come, but you have to see it as such. So, this week, realize that just about everyone feels this way at one time or another, even the greats. But don't let that discount your worth and your unique gifts. Understand that it's just an indication that you are growing and learning and stretching yourself and finding your place. And that is always a good thing. So keep at it. You're no imposter. You're just a brilliant, beautiful, amazing work in progress. So keep at it. And have a great week.
Don't try to fight the feeling, 'cause the thought alone is killing me right now.
Hey. Just a reminder, if you want to go deeper on this topic, go to Cup of Sales Joe on YouTube and listen to Another Cup, Imposter Syndrome.